Hello again, and how are you? You probably not know, but there's been another terror attack on Britain in London, and obviously ISIS, I believe, are claiming responsibility for this terror. Britain now, as a result, are on high terror alert, whatever that means, because whenever Britain is on high terror alert, it is not those that are inflicting harm on civilized society that is being targeted, but the average citizens. Suddenly our passports, we have to make sure our hair are tied back and there's no oil on our skin. They begin to infringe upon our freedom and civil liberties. So whenever there is Muslim terrorism, for some unknown, inexplicable reason, the government seems to benefit from it. Anyone would think that the government has shares, well, they do in Muslim oil, as to why every time that a Muslim or terrorist, one for a better word, embark a terror attack, whether it's at Manchester, London, or even America, for some unknown reason, new laws and implementation that are put into place never affect the Muslims. It always affect the citizens. Something does not add up. Our civil rights, our freedom, our civil liberties are already affected, where we cannot talk or exchange with good conscience our Christian faith or our morals, heterosexual morals. So we're beginning to find ourselves trapped into a corner, not being able to dialogue on anything. Now, what I find interesting is that no one never really asked the question, why do Muslims want to kill American or British, Germany, Canada, Sweden, France? Why do Muslims want to destroy the West? No one really questions that, because whenever terrorism takes place, oh, they hate us, and no one really breaks it down. Do Muslims really hate you? Of course not. Muslims do not hate you. What Muslims hate is that you're not a Muslim. If you become a Muslim, they'll stop killing you. They'll stop terrorizing you. There's also other political implications. For instance, Palestine, blah, blah, blah. However, if you notice the recent terrors that has taken place, not one Muslim, not one, has ever expressed a political view that they are doing it because of freeing Palestinians. They're doing it because of what Israel's doing to Palestinians, which Israel are treating Palestinians somewhat brutally. However, no Muslims, who have conducted these or carried out these terrorist, incidents, have not ever expressed of late that they are doing it because of freeing Palestinians, etc., or Western imperialism, in Muslim countries. It's not mentioned. Whenever we witness terrorism, you can guarantee of late it is because they want to implement an Islamic State. They are practicing what the Quran teaches. So the question, why are they trying to kill us? They hate us. No, they don't hate you. They don't hate you at all. What Muslims hate is that you are not following their religion. And their religion has such a distorted view of tolerance that they will maim and crucify those who do not adhere to the principles of Islam. So what is interesting is that the Western leaders who are arguing that Muslims should take on American values and British values, they are illiterate, they're not well read, they don't really understand the Islamic psychology, because it is impossible to be a practicing Muslim and follow in every precept the Quran. Is just totally impossible. Especially when the Quran states, do not take for friends infidels. Now, the Quran Muslim teaches is for all time. There's no annotation, there's no interpretation. Right? It's as it is. You know, hence why Muslims have a beard, because Muhammad did. And the way Muslims eat their food is to imitate how Muhammad ate his food. So they have a 7th century cultural psychology. Unlike Christians, who will compromise, you know, for a humanistic atheist society, a sexual liberated, quote unquote, society, Muslims will never compromise the Quran. Muslims have more integrity than Christians who profess to love Jesus. Many Christians are compromising the truth of the gospel. Many Christians are backpedaling because of their fear of persecution, or they're not getting paid. If they're a charity, they're not getting paid, so they have to adhere to, in order to keep the charity status, so that they must endorse homosexuality, they must endorse this sexual culture of incest and God knows what next. Islam won't do that. They want an Islamic state, hence which is why you have Muslims now patrolling in London, Muslims now carrying out Sharia patrol in Manchester, London, places where Muslims are ghettoizing their religion. And the government knows this, and the police. But they are so terrified of these Muslim terrorists that they turn a blind eye to this. Now, I made a video regarding do not compare multiculturalism to terrorism. However, in this case, Muslim multiculturalism cannot work in the West, especially in light to what their Quran teaches and expect them to follow. Many leaders are aware, they must do. You cannot be a leader and not know the psychology of any religion or culture in your country. It's totally impossible. It's just totally impossible. If I, for instance, I run a choir. And someone who is, how can I put it? Someone who has strange ideas, and strange taste, in music, and therefore not following, what the choir is supposed to be about. I would pick up on it. You soon pick up on it by their attitude, the blase, you pick up on it. So, and it's my interest to know that. So it's quite interesting that the government, they are in denial of what the Muslim believe in. But yet at the same time, today, regarding the terror attack, or potential terror attack, I'm not sure whether it actually took place or whether it was a threat. Theresa May commented that, trying to, this ideology of trying to establish an Islamic State. So she's more than aware that it's an ideology, a religious ideology. Some ideologies, die away, but you can guarantee that this religious ideology will not die away. And the reason being, the Western leaders are fanning, if you like, the Islamic heat because of their love of oil. The Western leaders have no interest in which to deal with Muslim terrorism. And until people get their heads out of the sand and start to realize that maybe the problem is with our leaders and their love of oil, we will continue to be hoodwinked. Muslims do not believe in democracy or tolerance. In fact, if you look on YouTube and look at videos, Muslims rioting in London and Muslim protests, you will see that they carry placard, "Democracy goes to hell." These are the same people that benefit from freedom of speech, which is why we can't condemn Islam. So they're benefiting from democracy in a default way. But at the same time, they say democracy go to hell. There's a lot of complication in this sort of narrative, a lot of complication. But until we understand that there's two components to why Islam, or Muslims are bombing America, Britain, France, Germany, right? On one hand, we think maybe it could be linked with Palestinian problem with Israel, but notice that's never ever get mentioned during these suicide bombings or bombing attacks. However, what is prominent and prevalent is that they always mention Allah Akbar, God is great, promoting an Islamic State. Hence why they want Sharia law in America, in Britain and in France. They're not really bothered about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. They're not really bothered about that. All they care about is setting up an Islamic State, and it's working. It's working. Britain now has over 100 practicing Sharia courts, which is despicable and disgusting, because I like to see Christianity in Saudi Arabia. I like to see Christians in Muslim countries who goes unmolested. But the reason why Western leaders are doing this is because we are run by, excuse me if I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but this is the truth, we're run by a pack of paedophile Satanists who have no morals, they're filthy liberals, and therefore their attack is on the Christian faith, the Christian church. And that's the reason why Islam has so much power and political clout in the West now, because we're run by a pack of atheist satanic leaders who really doesn't have any morals or any patriotic spirit. They're all about money and capitalism. So they will maintain this necessary illusion. But when you cut through the fog and cut through the cloud, you begin to realize that Islamic terrorism is here to stay. It will not go away, and it will get worse, because Britain has given Muslims oxygen. They gave them plenty of room in which to breathe their terrorism. They have Sharia courts now. They are the head of the BBC. You have a Muslim mayor. They've got power in Britain. They've got power in Britain. And therefore, in our lifetime, we will see Europe descended into Islamic State. It's going to be horrible times, really horrible. And there's nothing that you and I can do about it. Why? Because no one is talking about it. Why? They've made laws that if you dare express concerns about Muslim terrorism, you're a hater. They have you controlled through their laws. They have you controlled and you can't see it. It makes you wonder, why the hell do soldiers, why people join the army? You're joining an illusion. You don't know what the hell you're fighting for. You're fighting against your own nation. When you join the army, you might as well fight for Muslims. You're not fighting for your country. There's no country to fight for. Your country has been sold out by your leaders. Anyway, I've had enough.
You can't handle the truth.